Hi everybody, I'm Stefan for a-tutsplus.com, and this is the second tutorial of the broadcast series tutorials where I'm going to show you how to create a complete broadcast news package. So in the previous tutorial we created the whooped background element and the rotating cube element, as you can see here. And in this one we are going to continue with the rest of the elements, or at least some of them. So let's create a new composition, and I have two reference images here just because I don't remember exactly the size of the elements. So let's start with this element right here and create a new solid, and let's call it for example, let's call it main, doesn't matter the name. And let's take the rounded rectangle tool, hit Ctrl R for the rulers, and let's see if we can recreate this. And it's not so important to be 100% the same. You can tweak it if you wish. And let's duplicate this one and change the color to white. And for example, just hold down Ctrl Alt Shift and scale it up a bit, and duplicate it again, set this to 15% and this to 10, and just double click and again increase the size. And if we turn off the visual reference image, it should look like so. So let's remove the rulers and let's start adding some colors and stuff like that. First of all, we need to apply a ramp, so come to generate and select a ramp. And of course I'm going to copy the original color that I used in the original project. So something like that. And basically something like that, or maybe move this point right here, it's up to you. And after that, come to generate and apply a stroke, and let's say apply on original image, as you can see. And this way we keep the stroke in the original image, which is our background gradient, because if we set this to on transparent, we're going to have only the stroke and the original image will disappear. So keep the stroke at 5 and increase the brush hardness to 100%, and basically that's it for this element. So let's delete the reference and rename this main window, and come here, create a new solid, let's call it top line, and take the rectangle mask tool. We can use the rulers again, this will save us some time. and I hope in this tutorial I will be able to cover at least 3 designs. Oops, not a shape layer but a mask. So let's increase the size of the mask and let the fun begin. First of all, we need to apply a ramp. Let's come to effect, select the layer, let's come to effect, generate ramp, and let's set the start point here and the end point right here. And for the start point we are going to use a complete white core, and for the point right here I'm going to use this core, and move the point, just a bit. Let's see if that helps. And after that I'm going to apply a drop shadow to this layer. So come to effect, perspective, drop shadow, and set the distance to 4 and the softness to 20. Also set the direction to 180 degrees to get something like that. And finally we are going to apply a perspective bevel alpha effect, and just set this to 2.5 and set the white intensity to 1, and this way we're getting more of a 3D look. Oh, this is the top line. Just let's duplicate this layer and control shift Y, rename it bottom line, and let's turn on the visual reference, select the mask, and let's see, we need to modify the mask just a bit. And because this is a bigger than the top line, I'm going to increase the edge thickness of the bevel alpha to 3, and for the shadow I'm going to set the distance to 3 and increase the softness to 25. Other than that, everything is the same. And finally we need to create the middle line, which, as you can see, I'm going to draw it like so. And just come to effect, generate ramp, and again set the start point here and the end point here. And for the start point I'm going to use this core, and for the end point I'm going to use this core. So the design should look something like that. And because we are getting a dark edge here because of the bevel alpha, we are going to scale this up in the main comp. So let's create another comp, and let's call it, for example, let's make it 30 seconds first of all, and let's call it coming up next, for example. Let's drop the and rename it, of course, for example, and drop this one here. Let's see, somewhere around here. And the next part is to animate these elements, and because there are a lot more to cover, I'm going to explain only for this part how to do this, and for the next elements I'm going to just leave that to you, because I need the time to explain how to create the rest of the designs. So first of all, the headline bar, we are going to scale this one to 101% to avoid the black edge right here. And for example, let's say, let's turn everything else off, let's animate this, set it to subtract, move 10 frames forward, hit M, and reveal the element for 20 frames. Of course, set a bit of a feather, and as you can see, this is how the element looks like. I believe that in the original one I applied the CC white sweep effect, and oops, like so. Let's see the first keyframe. Probably 10 frames later I'm going to animate the white sweep effect. Like so. And then I'm going to create a matte for the main window, which is going to be right here, and I'm going to use it as a alpha inverted matte. And right after this element is revealed, like around here, I'm going to animate in this element. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to animate these elements. And of course, with the coming of the main window, we can animate the rotating box. For example, I'm going to use a scale and rotation animation here, and let's move 10 frames forward, and let's set the rotation to -1 and the scale to 0, and this way we are going to get this type of animation. And of course, we need to create the clock, as you can see from the original design, which is a pretty easy thing. Let's create a layer, and we are going to use the guides again and just draw a shape like so, and let's apply a ramp, set the start point here and the end point here, maybe a bit darker, and you can type the numbers you want right here and link them to this layer, and basically the clock will be behind the cube and animate like so for 5 frames, for example. And we have a ready animation. For example, it's, let's change this to Arial and set the spacing to 0 and the color to black, and let's link it. And this is how it's going to look like, and we need to put this here. And to avoid the clock appearing when the cube disappears, just make like so. As you can see, the cube appears, then the clock appears, and we have the complete animation. And after that you can put your headline here, storyline, and everything you want. So this is for the coming up. Next, let's organize the project. Let's organize the project a bit. Let's put this one here, and let's see, main window, let's put this one, and we don't need the reference images, so I'm going to delete them and move on to the next element. And the next element is going to be this one, which is when we have a phone connection and somebody is on the phone line, and we get a live video from the place where is he, or something like that. So let's rename this composition on the phone. And again, this is a visual reference to help me to recreate the elements in the correct size. And let's use the guides once again. To fit the size of this element, and let's create a new layer and call it main stroke, and take the rounded rectangle tool again, and just draw the shape like so. And just turn off the layer. As you can see, it's not exactly the same shape, and if you want to change the shape, just select those 2 points, hit Ctrl T and hold down Shift, and you can, as you can see, you can change the shape of the points. And if you want to do the same thing on the left side, just put a guide right here and select, select those points, and it will snap to the guide. So this is how you change the shape. And let's apply a generate stroke to this one. Set the stroke to 3 for the brush size and increase the hardness to 100%. And it's very important to set this on transparent, because we want only the stroke and nothing else. After that we are going to apply a drop shadow, so come to perspective and drop shadow and increase the opacity to 80% and set the softness to 20. And this is for the main stroke. Now we need to create the main window, which is this element right here, as you can see, and it will be a bit tricky. So let's create a new solid and call it main window. Turn off the solid, take the rounded rectangle tool again, and let's draw the shape. As you can see, we need to fix the shape once again, like so. But right here our shape doesn't need to be rounded, it's a straight corner. So what I'm going to do is to set a point right here and delete, and delete these points and start using the arrow keys to make the line completely straight, and I think we are ready to go. So turn on the layer, remove the guides and apply a ramp. First of all, come to generate ramp and I guess we are going to use the same course like we used right here. So I'm going just to copy the ramp and paste it here to save some time. And the only difference is that this will be a radial ramp, and basically we need to invert the course. And I wish that the ramp effect has a checkbox to reverse the course, because now I need to get this core from here and this core from here, and then I have the inverted ramp effect. So let's keep this in the middle and probably this one like so. Okay, delete this effect and let's apply a stroke. Come to generate stroke, set the brush size to 4, maybe 4 is a good number. Increase the hardness to 100% and change the color to, let's see, to this one. And finally we need to apply a drop shadow effect, so come to perspective, drop shadow, set the opacity to 80% like usual and increase the softness to 20. And we are getting somewhere. Now we need to set the opacity for the main window to 65% and the opacity for the stroke to 80%. And now we can move on to create the rest of the elements. And I guess I'm going to start with the top title bar. So let's create a new solid, and using the rectangle mask tool, draw the shape of the title bar. Like so. It doesn't need to be pixel perfect, but it needs to be close. So let's apply a ramp. And set the first point right here and the end point right here, and the end point core will be this core. And then we need to apply a drop shadow and bevel alpha to this element. So increase the opacity to 65% and set the direction to 180 and just tweak the settings a bit. As you can see, now let's apply the bevel alpha, which is going to be edge thickness 3, and probably, let's see, turn off the mask, something like that. I'm happy with the result here, and let's create a new layer and call it bottom bar. Here we need to use our favorite guides. I use the rectangle, rounded rectangle shape mask tool, excuse me, and draw the shape. And right here we need to delete these points, and I guess we are ready to go. Just copy the ramp effect to this layer, start point here, end point right here, and for the drop shadow and bevel alpha we are going to tweak them. So let's apply a brand new drop shadow, increase the opacity to 65, keep the shadow direction as default, and set this to 4 and the softness to 8. And let's apply the bevel alpha effect and set the white angle to 60 instead of -60, and the white intensity to 0.6, because we want the white to come from this side, and by default this side will be a darker. So we are ready with the title, and finally we need to create a composition for the video. So let's type your video, and let's turn off the visual reference for now. Take this one, and we need to put a black solid for a background right here. Just scale it down a bit and double click on the rounded rectangle mask, and we need to turn on the visual reference and see if it needs to be a bit more, around 49% or so. And as you can see, we need to tweak the settings. 48 works perfect. We need to tweak the settings just a bit, like so, and using the guides we're going to get the same result for the rest of the corners. That's the best part of everything. And finally we need to, let's increase the opacity, remove the visual reference. We need to apply some effects to this composition. Let's start by adding a stroke effect. Come to generate stroke and set the brush size to 3 and the brush hardness to 100%. And then let's add a perspective, drop shadow, of course, set the opacity to 65%, set the distance to 6 and the softness to 25. And basically this is how our window should look like. And let's create another composition, another folder here. Let's drop this into on the phone main, and now we can drop our background and rotating box elements here and start animating them and revealing some text and stuff like that. But as you can see, you can review this one right here. I remember that I did it this way, or from the left or right side, or use the transition effects. It's up to you. I'm not going to waste more time because we are at the around 30 minutes and I need to show you how to create at least one more element in this tutorial. So let's move on. And our next element is, as you can guess, this one. And this is again a visual reference because I can't match perfectly the size. So let's create a top line layer, and using the guides we are going to recreate the design. So for the top line, using the rectangle mask tool, just draw a shape. Like so, and duplicate the mask. Oops, actually let's keep it like so. We're going to duplicate the layer, but later on. First of all, we need to apply a ramp. Set the start point here and choose a white core. And let's set the endpoint of the ramp right here and change the color to this color. Yep. And let's start adding more effects like drop shadow and bevel alpha. Just tweak the settings a bit, and finally apply a bevel alpha. Set this to 1.5 and increase the white intensity to 1. And now we can duplicate the layer and rename it to bottom line, and just move the mask like so, and we are ready to go. Now we need to create another layer for the middle line, so we are creating this layer and drawing a nice mask shape. Which we are going to put this layer below the two lines and apply ramp again. Set the start of the ramp here and the end right here, and use this color for the start, and for the end we are going to use this color. And finally we should pre-compose this and call it top title bar. And let's move on with the next element. Create a new composition and let's call it Studio Video, and let's type Studio Video here, create a black background, duplicate the composition here, and let's call it Field Video. Let's take all these compositions, drop them into a new folder. To organize the project. So this is our main composition, and basically we need to drop the studio here using the rounded rectangle tool. Just double click, scale it down to 50% and come to apply a stroke, generate stroke, set the brush size to 4, increase the hardness to 100% and set the spacing to 0, and after that apply a drop shadow effect, set the opacity to 60%, the distance to 8 and the softness to 15. And as you can see, we need to tweak the shape, but we are running out of time, so I'm going to keep it like so. And just duplicate this one, select this one, hold down Alt and drop it right here. It doesn't seem to work. It's very strange because I need to select the field video composition. My bad, sorry. And this way all the effects we applied to the first one are now just applied to the second one. And finally we need to create the left title bar, which isn't a hard task to do. Just draw a very simple shape. Like so. Duplicate the layer and rename it right title bar, and just move the mask to the right. And now we need to apply some effects to get the right look. So select the left bar and let's apply a generate ramp, excuse me. And for the ramp, let's set it to radial ramp, set the center around here and the end around here, and I'm going to just cheat a little bit and copy the center core from the reference because I'm too lazy, and just copy and paste the ramp to the other bar and move only the point. And finally we need to apply a bevel alpha and set this to 135 and set this one to 0.6 and apply a perspective drop shadow, set the softness to 10. This way we are getting this result. And I guess we need to tweak this one like so, paste the effects here, and we are ready to go. Just move these two elements below. The reference is turned off, and now you can see you can animate the top bar coming from the top, and after that from the left and the right the two video windows, and when they appear you can just reveal from top to bottom these two bars and type your text. So this one was pretty easy. Let's delete all unnecessary things in the project, and with this one I guess we are ready with this tutorial. So hope you like it and it was useful and interesting for you, and stay tuned for the third part where we're going to create the lower thirds designs and some other designs like the over the shoulder window here, but this is going to be in the third part. So I'm Stefan for a-tutsplus.com, and we'll see you next time.